Welcome to the Predictive Playbook, everyone. I'm your host, John Ryan, and I have Kevin Braudis from Sportsmemo.com making his debut today. And it's a good day to be making a debut because Major League Baseball is really starting to heat up right now. It is one of the only sports that we do have available right now, but the Olympics are going on. We have PGA Tour. Those shows occur on Tuesday and Wednesday. So welcome to the show, Kevin. How's everything been going for you? I know you've been doing very well in baseball over the last 30 days, that's for sure.
Yeah. Hey, John, thanks for having me. It's been going
Absolutely.
good. Definitely MLB's getting to that this week with the trade deadline coming up. So that's some pretty big news about to happen.
Oh, absolutely. And, Nelson Cruz going to Tampa Bay is big. And then there's all kinds of rumors floating around today. Yankees apparently acquired about Scherzer. Mets are actually looking for help. The team that's flying quietly right now is the Philadelphia Phillies, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go after Kimbrel with full force because that's a team that looks like they just need a closer, and they could overtake the Mets, I think, in that division, especially if Atlanta and Washington become sellers.
Absolutely.
But
what's your thoughts on the Cubs with all their players?
I think they become sellers. I think Kimbrel is probably their biggest asset. And, they are right now, as we speak, 10 games out of first place in the Central behind Milwaukee. Two teams ahead of them. The Reds, which are a team that I think is very dangerous. I wouldn't want to be Milwaukee right now with the Reds in the rearview mirror. And then, of course, St. Louis is one game under 500. The Cubs are three. So for them to leapfrog over three teams within their own division, probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Cubs?
I definitely agree. I think they've already kind of started waving the white flag, and I think this week is going to determine a lot. And hopefully the Cubs fans get their last look at probably Bryant, Baez, Rizzo, whoever it is. But this will be their last 4 games at home before the trade deadline. So it'll be exciting to see.
And before we get to your free pick, you can see in the bottom of the screen, folks, Kevin 49 gets 7 days. Now, that's 7 days all access. That's $7 a day, if my math is right, and that's at the cost of an IPA. And I like making that comparison because if you give up one IPA each night, you're basically paying for it by doing that. So the point is that $49 is an absolute great price to get Kevin's Major League Baseball and All Access Sports subscription. And you can do it right now using Kevin49 over at sportsmemo.com. And I wouldn't wait. I would not wait. So, Kevin, I was running the database here, and like everybody else, I have a pretty massive one going back to 1887 by player. But more importantly, it does 2021. So after the All-Star break, the hottest team right now is the Baltimore Orioles. And they have won $581 so far on a 6-2 record for the $100 better and averaging a 145 dog line. So not surprising after the All-Star break, these poor teams, I don't know what the reason is, but they do tend to play pretty well. The worst team right now is the Rangers, and they are a bad team. They're 0-7. I think they lost 11 or 12 in a row. Toronto, surprisingly, is 1-4 after the All-Star break. They're second worst. Then the Twins and Reds, 3-7. Phillies, 3-5. And there's a lot of contenders here, including the Dodgers, which are 4-5. And if you would have bet against them, you would be 5-4, obviously. But by averaging a 167 dog, the $100 better would be up over $400. So, things to think about. Definitely. But I know you want to talk about the Reds and the Cubs, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big-time series because Cincinnati must win the series, if not sweep the Cubs, if at all possible, to close that 6.5 game gap on the Brewers. They're also 5.5 out in the wild card race, which is really starting to heat up across Major League Baseball, with the Dodgers being the first wild card and San Diego being the second. And that National League West is a race by itself, with San Francisco continuing to do the unimaginable. Yeah. Let's focus on the Reds and the Cubs here, and tell me where you're going with this game.
Yeah, let's get into it. So I'm glad we kind of brought up the whole big news about the trade deadline, because I think that whether the Cubs like it or not, it still sits over their head. the fans know it, the players know it if they watch the news, which they do. And I understand they're taking it game by game, but it's still a big factor in my opinion. So just getting into this one, like John was saying, this is a huge series for the Reds. It's a bigger series for them. The Cubs, like he mentioned, are 49-51 in fourth place in the division. So hopefully the Reds come out hot today, because it will be nice to take game one in this series and try to gain some ground on these Milwaukee Brewers. So let's just get into it, John. We got Wade Miley on the hill for the Reds, and then we got Kyle Hendricks on the bump for the Cubs. And I'll just start off by saying this will be a free play. It will be the Reds' first 5 money line. And a few things I just wanted to mention right off the bat. Wade Miley has looked fantastic for the Cincinnati Reds this year. He's the lefty on the bump. He has a 2.72 ERA this season with a 3.25 FIP. And also wanted to mention his road stats as well. On the road this year, he's even better. He has a 2.52 ERA with an impressive 1.04 WHIP. So really like this guy a lot. And 3 things I really love about him is he works at a fast pace. Guys love playing behind him. So hopefully that is an advantage for the Reds as well. And he doesn't get barreled, John. Like only 2% of his balls in play this season have been barreled. So league average is 7% for anybody that doesn't know that. And then lastly, he keeps the ball in the ballpark. This man does not allow home runs. If you look at the entire MLB starting pitchers, he ranks top 5 with fewest home runs given up. Only 7 bombs given up this year after facing 424 batters. So that's super impressive and a big key piece playing at Wrigley, because we know the ball flies there. Now just getting into it a little more, he has faced the Cubs twice this year already, both at home. He went 5 innings in both those and also only allowed 2 earned runs in both starts, and also came away with a win. So this will be the 3rd time, and a lot of times that makes me nervous going on a pitcher facing the team for a 3rd time. But here it really doesn't. Man, this guy's been fantastic. Wade Miley has June ERA 2.82. Month of July, he has a 1.29 ERA. This guy seems unhittable right now. And even if he does get hits, he gets out of those jams, man. And the Reds have a pretty good defense. So getting into it a little more now, the Cubs, out of their whole lineup, the only 4 guys that really scare me are Contreras, Bryant, Rizzo, and Baez. And Baez might not even play tonight. So that's good to see. He did have a lower back injury yesterday, so I expect Wade Miley to come out here, give his team a shot, give him a strong 5 innings. He is a veteran. He knows how important these games are, so hopefully he'll come out dominant. And last thing I wanted to touch on, righties are only batting 198 off him this season. Righties are batting 247 off him this season, and lefties are only batting 198 off him. So I expect the Cubs to come with a pretty heavy right-handed lineup today. And then on the other side of things, we got Kyle Hendricks, the 31-year-old, putting up great numbers in July as well. I'm not going to take that away from him, but he does have an overall 3.61 ERA on the season and also a 4.6 FIP, which is pretty concerning. And then if you look at his overall numbers at home, he has a 3.9 ERA at home with a 1.27 WHIP. So just getting into his numbers a little more, lefties are batting 289 off him this season, and righties are batting 256 off him this season, guys. And he gives up power on both sides of the plate, unlike Wade Miley. So that's pretty concerning with being at Wrigley with the wind blowing out a little bit to left. And this matchup has happened before, so it's a little deja vu. They did face off Wade Miley and Hendricks on July 4th. The Reds did win that game 3-2. And then last thing I wanted to bring up, with Hendricks, he has a career versus Reds team, and it's not in his favor, John. The Reds have a team average of 321 off him and a slugging percentage of 607. And this Reds team has really impressed me this year. They're fully put together, and unlike the Cubs, as we know, some days they show up, some days they don't. And now with the trade deadline approaching, this just seems like a Reds first 5 here for me. And then the last point I wanted to bring up, just some trends to kind of support our play even more. The Cubs are 0-8 in the last 8 versus a team with a winning record, and the Cubs are 2-10 in their last 12 games versus a lefty starter. So hopefully that wasn't too long, John, but I'm taking the Cincinnati first 5 on the money line plus 115. Give me that price. Give me that play.
That was awesome. That was one of the best Major League Baseball breakdowns I've heard. So I have to congratulate you on that. And folks in the chat room or wherever you're listening to this, you just heard what he said and the knowledge and the depth of the knowledge he has. So You'd be nuts not to take advantage of the $49 offer over at sportsmemo.com that Sportsmemo just did for him. So you get $40 off. It's $49. That's $7 a day, and that's a great test drive to get what this guy does. And you just heard what you get with the picks. It's not throwing darts at a board or guessing, or, oh boy, I think the Phillies are going to win today. There's reasons for it, and then you can sit there and, I'm ready to go to bet the Reds right now at the window. So that was very well done, Kevin. One question for you in your circles and travels and stuff. Do you think Kimbrel will be on the block?
I would not. I think other players will be on the block before him, but I do think he's definitely overall on the block. I think all these players are on the block. If you're the Cubs, I don't see how you can't get anything out of these guys. Like they're in fourth place, like you mentioned. How do they not try to get something from these big name guys? And I know it's sad because this team has kind of came up together. They won the World Series back in 2016, but at a point you got to look at like long term and like, is this going to be the Cubs where they just suck for 100 years again, or are they going to try to get something out of these players before they leave?
Yeah, that's good stuff. I agree with it too. And of course, when I was almost hoping. I'm kind of a quiet Red Sox fan. I'm more of a sports fan than anything, but I was almost hoping that the Yankees would sweep that series so that these teams that have assets could just charge outrageous prices, because we all know that the Yankees will pay anything with reckless abandon just to make the playoffs, really.
Definitely.
And then conversely, I think the Phillies are actually in very good shape for the next couple years if they would hold off trying to get into the playoffs. And it's very tempting to go after the Mets. I think they could, but then they have to play, more than likely they'll play Milwaukee, and that's not a good matchup for anybody. And then the Dodgers, of course, are going to be there. The Giants, Padres. Milwaukee. It doesn't seem to be the year to pull the trigger on a big trade deadline here, especially with a 35-year-old closer.
Yep. Something's big is going to happen, though, John. You know that.
It is. Yep. And I hope the something is that you guys get over to sportsmemo.com and get Kevin's 7-day all access. That's what I want to see happen before the trade deadline.
I like that.
So, Kevin, thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate it. And Kevin will be on every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time going forward. And, of course, we'll be making occasional stop-bys at Manny's Irish Pub, which is Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, for Kevin, myself, wagertalk.com, sportsmemo.com, and the Predictive Playbook, may all the wins be yours.